It's 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Thursday, the 15th of July, 2010. I'm Mark Strassman, reporter with Ethiopia News. I'm about to talk to Bill Kelleher. Welcome back to Ethiopia News.
Thanks, Mark. Nice to see you again.
Now, a short while ago, we did an interview about internet voting and your work in that area, and posted the interview, and people watched it. And some people had some criticisms of the ease with which you assumed that internet voting would be secure. So I thought we'd do a follow-up. We both thought we should do a follow-up interview to give you a chance to address some of the concerns that some of the viewers of the first video had about the security of internet voting. So why don't we talk about that? We're going to talk about that today. Why don't we start with essentially the security issues divide into server issues, client issues, and connection issues. So why don't you address the server issues first and talk about what some of the complaints were and what your response to those complaints is.
Okay, Mark, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to address those concerns.
You're welcome.
Like you said, there's three parts to internet voting, and the first part would be the secure server held by individual counties. We're talking about if we had internet voting in the United States, there's probably 3,000 counties that make their own decisions about buying election technology. So each one has to cover its own security issues, and the security issues fall into two basic parts. One is the physical security of the machine, the server itself that puts out the website, and the other is the operational or software security. The physical security is something that we know how to do well. It's just that you have to do it. Sometimes people don't pay attention and make mistakes. Lock the doors, have security cameras, there are security seals on the machines. You have only authorized personnel enter the room where the server is kept, and generally protect the machine in that way. The major problem, the major area of concern, is the software security, and there's a lot of issues involved there.
Okay, could you address what some of those software issues on the server side are, and what your view is about how secure they can be made?
Well, there's a lot of scary stories, and people respond to the scary stories. So it's important to understand, whenever you hear a scary story about internet voting, to think critically about it and to ask, what are the facts? What are the mitigation strategies that people can take? And how likely is the scary event really to occur? One example would be the manufacturer installs a backdoor in the code, and then somebody can break into the code. Let's say they send an email to the server and they say, the email says, Joe sent me, and suddenly they have access to all the code and they can change all the votes. Well, that isn't going to happen. First of all, you can think of the internet voting server as having three basic functions or three basic modules, and the first one would be the module that accepts the logon from the voter. It checks the registration of the voter with the registrar of voters. That module, when the registration is validated, sends the voter to the next module, which puts up the ballot to vote on. That module has no connection with the name, no information about the name of the voter. So the voter's privacy is guaranteed, and you have to pass that checkpoint before you can get into the rest of the system. So a backdoor wouldn't succeed in that situation.
And what's the third module?
Well, the third module would be the one that stores and tallies the votes. So the second module would put up the ballot. The voter would mark his or her choices. Then the website would put up a confirmation window and say, this is how you're voting, is this what you want? and you click yes, and the second module stores the ballot and sends the vote over to the third module, which does the tallying and holds the final results.
You're saying that a manufacturer can't put a backdoor in the code that would allow someone to get in and tamper with the results?
Okay. There's a couple of things to think about here. The first one is, suppose you're a manufacturer of software and you want to influence an election. You put in the code. The risk you take is spending years in federal prison and losing your business, losing your reputation. Even when you come out of prison, you'll have nothing. And is that worth however many votes you think you can get in one of 3,000 counties? And different counties are going to buy software from different manufacturers. So you won't be able to control the whole election. You can only control the election of the people who buy your stuff. So there's one obstacle that they have to overcome. Another one is that these machines can be tested for the code that they have in them. So you put the computer code to a test, and it checks to see if the exact code that's in the specifications is in that machine. And you can run that test before, and you can run that test after, and it can catch malware or bad code. And there's a final point. There's a computer scientist named Ed Greek, and he has what he calls the electronic witness. And you install the electronic witness on the modules in the secure server, and the electronic witness knows what each module is supposed to do and monitors that module to make sure that it does only what it's supposed to do. And if it goes off course, then the electronic witness will make a record of the event and could even set off alarms for people to come and investigate. So the mitigating strategies that we have for internet voting really prohibit any attempts for a manufacturer to try and install a backdoor.
Okay, you've cited some examples of very limited cases of internet voting in the United States and their track record. Could you review that for us now?
Sure. The Republicans used internet voting in Alaska in the 2000 primary. The Democrats used internet voting. They offered an internet voting option in the 2000 primary in Arizona. And the Democrats in Michigan offered an internet voting option for their primary. Hawaii had a municipal election in 2009, and the New York City School Board had an election in 2009. Otherwise, the internet voting activity in the United States has been between states and counties and their overseas voters. And there's been, this year, there's going to be at least 33 states that are going to try some form of internet voting to make it easier for their overseas voters to vote. And let me just say that in the attempts that have been made, and there was one other made by the Department of Defense around 2000, and that was a very small project. But in all these projects, there were no hackers, there was no problems, there was no security breaches.